Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 57th Chicago International Film Festival. My name is Mimi Ploche, and I'm Artistic Director of the festival. And it is my great pleasure to be in conversation today with Mohamed Diab. Mohamed, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Mimi. Always pleasure to be with you guys.
Yeah, and we're really excited to be presenting your most recent film, Amira, in our international feature film competition. I did want to thank Jacqueline and John Boxbaum and the Family Foundation for their support of the international feature film competition. So let's get started. So the audience will have already seen the film, so there's no no spoilers here as we talk about it, but at the end of the film, you indicate that, this is the idea, or the seed of the story came from, of course, like these real life incidences of, oh, there we go. We're losing you for a second. Children being born whose fathers were in prison. And wanted to just talk to you about, like, it's such an interesting kind of, I think, fact, like as a starting point to explore, but then you create this intricate kind of narrative that's a bit of a web with a lot of twists in it around this fact as the starting point. So I was wondering, one is like what type of research that you did in terms of these real stories, and two was like, once you knew that this was going to be the basis for it, what was your starting point for creating this story with kind of the twists and the surprises and the complexity that it has?
I was just like reading, and all of a sudden I checked this on my news feed about Palestinian prisoners having children this way, immaculate conception, smuggling their sperm, and it just like amazed me that concept. It's just like it felt like a science fiction, and I just like as a filmmaker, I kept thinking about how, like, what's the life of someone who's gonna have how does the moment of sending that sperm feel like? How does the father, how does the mother live? How does the kid live and love their parents? Because the way I saw it the first time I went to watch a couple of documentaries about it, it felt like so intimate. And me and my wife, Sarah Gore, who's my producer, we just kept playing with the idea, and we felt there is something Shakespearean about this idea. There's internet. It could carry the weight of a very, very strong theme. And to me, it's not just about the Palestinian story. At the end, the question that the film carries about who we are we the outcome of our upbringing or our choice is a question that everyone can come up out of the film and ask themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I love that reference, like thinking about it as Shakespearean, where like one decision or one twist leads to something with much larger consequences that kind of shed a light on kind of this idea of like this humanity or this question of identity, which I think, that is ultimately what the film is about, is like, is who are you? And where do you come from, and how do you claim your identity, and what happens when that's taken away from you? But so I want to kind of one piece of the film or detail that you include that I think kind of ties in with this question of identity so beautifully is the aspect of photography. And, and so I was wondering if, I could talk about what I think it means, but I'd love to hear you talk about kind of the importance of both kind of this I guess, them practicing photography as an art, as a passion, but also the creation of pictures, whether it's like, through Photoshop, creating a sense of a family, or even as she takes the photographs of herself at the end and kind of asserting some type of identity or presence through those. So could you talk about the importance of the camera and of photography in the film, kind of in your mind? And does that to you also connect with this idea of identity?
At some point, I wanted to call the film camera. This is how important it is. And I never like to use any element in a film without completely using it. It has an arc. In a way, her change itself, it's not just like used as something that we play with for a moment. No, it's there is an arc to how Amira uses the camera, and there is a development. It's like a friend of hers, and at the beginning, her father, the relationship between her and her father, and the Photoshop is something I love. It's so romantic to me. It's just like their way of getting out of prison, their way of meeting, and at the same time, at the end of the film, when you see the Israeli father, it affects me so much. She saw herself. By the way, I got the actress's real sister to do that.
Oh, really?
Because in a way, she saw herself.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that detail.
Because in a way, she saw herself. And I'm always fascinated by a camera. A camera captures the moment, and just like freezes it in time. Sometimes I even ask myself, it should be illegal. There's a lot of moments, like a lot of moments. Sometimes it's like someone else can, like every moment I have with my ex or something like that. It's frozen in time forever. I'm not saying that I don't like the past or anything, but just like the idea and the philosophy of a camera and capturing a moment is something that I'm fascinated with, and I tried my best to use it not just like as a prop, but there's a progression. The way, even when she was questioning her identity, and she chose to put the light in a way, seeing herself as an angel or as a demon or whatever, like she doesn't know who she is anymore. And again, her camera is her mirror. Her camera, when her uncle wanted, like, the best gift in the world is the camera, and the camera that he sent her was a role in the story. So this is my interpretation, but I think you still have something deeper that you wanted to say about the camera, I'm sure.
Oh, no, I mean, to me, I also think of, like, creating these images, and of course it's a reflection of some reality, but also, as we see, manipulatable, right? Whether it's through Photoshop or through the lighting, but it's almost like, I feel like, an assertion of kind of some identity or intimacy. Or I often think of photos as something that our memory really starts to rely on, and so the photos become not just the product of a moment, but they actually become the creation of something else, or the one thing that we can hold on to when we remember. But it's also, I thought, very interesting to think about both her uncle and the grandfather as photographers as well, and kind of that generational, I guess, attraction to it. And again, it's this kind of, one of the things that you're doing is deconstructing, or really just considering this idea of what the family is, and familial relations. And even though she's not blood relation with the uncle or the grandfather, she's, through the camera, she's still connected with them.
Beautiful. I agree with you on everything.
Phew.
No, really beautiful.
At the beginning, I was also thinking a lot about, you mentioned it, but you create these, like, true moments of intimacy, I think, through the way that you shoot the film, and maybe in the place where it's most difficult to be intimate, which is the jail scene, the scenes in the jail, whether it's the beginning scene when they meet him, and they're separated by the glass, or the scene when they're on the phone, which I just found completely heartbreaking. And so I was wondering how you thought about taking this place that's really about separation and being apart, and creating this, like, these true scenes of intimacy between the characters.
I think there isn't any scene in the film or sequence in the film that shows, like, the struggle of Palestinians in a way more than the prison scenes. All those strong emotions that Nawar is feeling, the father, and he can't do anything. I the character as a father, because I'm a father myself and has a daughter who's 10 years old. Um, that I related to the most is Nawar,
Mm-hmm.
and every once the moment he knew that he's not the father and he's still in prison, he can't do anything. He's just like chained. Um, it's the most thing that I relate to as a father. But my favorite film and my favorite scene in the whole film is the intimate scene between the two of them
Mm-hmm.
when they're
Yeah.
the choice not to just send the sperm and try to have a romantic moment. Um, it's just like it's my favorite sex scene of all time. It's, at least in my movies. Let's say in my movies, but I just like love it. It's such heartbreaking
It is.
but romantic,
Yeah.
and they discover that they touch each other once
Mm.
before.
Yeah.
He didn't know it, and he just like made his day. It's can you believe it? Two people are marrying without touching each other ever.
Yeah.
It's just like it's the talk of it's the material of a science fiction.
Mm-hmm. Well, but I do think also, obviously, even through the dialogue, like you said, like, where these points, these moments, or their history is revealed, but also their struggle, and, the desire for intimacy is there. But I also think it's through the way that you kind of shoot the film, whether, and so obviously in the bathroom, we see at the end that you're actually looking at her in the mirror. And so I was wondering if you could talk about that choice and thinking about, again, this incredibly intimate scene, but we're still not like truly seeing her until the end of it.
Her shot, yeah, we shot the scene 3 weeks apart.
Oh,
So her
really?
shot was yeah.
Let's see. I think we
Sorry,
lost. Oh,
sorry. I apologize.
no, no.
So we
Oh, I think, Mohammed, we've lost the signal again.
I'm here.
Okay. I think
Am
you're
I
back
back?
now. Yeah. You're back.
Okay. Yeah. Just a second. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So well, the last thing we heard was you shot the scenes 3 weeks apart, which is amazing. And so how did you work with them on that? And which part did you shoot first?
Just a second. For some reason, I can't hear you.
Okay.
Hello.
Can you hear me now?
I can't hear you. I don't know why. I can't hear you. But you can hear me at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can you hear me? I can.
الصوت ضرب كل حاجة.
اوكي خلي الهيدفونز عندك.
طيب
اوكي
طيب صوت مش سامع. هي مش سامعاني، أنا مش سامعها.
you can't hear her. Okay,
Can you hear
I've never
now?
been on this app before.
Sarah's my wife, and she's my technical support. So hopefully in a second we're gonna solve this.
Hold on. Can they hear us?
Yes, but I can hear it.
Okay, sound. Okay, you might need to call them again. But
I can hear you now.
You can hear?
Mimi.
Okay.
Yes, finally. I apologize.
No problem. So I think the last thing we were talking about was you were saying that you shot that scene 3 weeks apart.
3 weeks apart.
I was asking, like, which one did you shoot first, and then how did you work the scenes together? Like, did the second actor watch the first one, or how did you work together with them on that?
I didn't let anyone watch the. We used the imagination of everyone.
Okay.
And especially that I didn't want to watch it. Didn't want her to watch the other actor because in real life the character didn't watch anyone. It's just like a voice, sound.
Right.
So we were playing the sound exactly the real thing. And about the camera, the using the mirror,
Mm-hmm.
Using reflections all through the film is something that has been used, and because there is the idea of duality, how people, Amira for herself, she questions who she is. So tons of times, am I Amira or am I the other person that I don't know about? She actually gets scared of herself. So the usage of mirrors is there all the time, and at some point she actually looks at a mirror after discovering that she's not who she is, and she looks at herself questioning, who am I? With the mother here, it was definitely yes, just saying actually that the way she was dealing with him in the beginning of the scene is different than the way she ended the scene, and this is more of her relationship with him, which is very intimate and loving, and the beginning of it wasn't her, because she didn't know until he spoke up and opened up a little bit. There is a theme of using the duality with a lot of shadows. Shadows too were used all through the story to tell how everyone is feeling or reflecting their identity. There's a moment when the father is lying at this time. He is the one who's lying to his daughter and telling her, you have to leave because you're a disgrace. And it's shot from a distance and you see his shadow. Again, two people. This is two people. This is not him.
Right.
Until he changes and he says the truth and we get closer to him and he reveals his face.
Yeah.
So those things usually, yeah, go ahead.
No, go on.
I was just saying those things, I usually don't think about him before shooting the scene, but I just like assign with my cinematographer and art director visual themes and stuff that I want to use, mirrors, shadows, stuff like that. And all of us as a team, when we block a scene, because this is how I play with it. I never like have the scene knowing exactly how I want to shoot it. We block the scene and then we try to discover what do we have on location? How can we do it in a way that reflects what the characters are feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I also had that sense of the duality and kind of the representation or this kind of contrast between daytime and nighttime on the streets that I found to be really striking in the way that you shot the bright daylight and the sunlight, and then kind of all the lights at night with the darkness and the shadows.
Absolutely.
I guess,
Mimi, you're the best person who watches movies. You discover everything. I think you're the reason. I think people like you who are very smart like that are the reason most directors say, you know what, I'm gonna let you discover by yourself, because you understand more of the movie than I even sometimes intended.
Well, I'm sure there's so much more in there than I have discovered, but I love thinking about like kind of what you're doing with the
Yes.
image. And I guess kind of one of my last questions is because I also think besides like identity and kind of Amira's crisis, the film also, it seems to me to be a lot about like, what does it mean to be a parent, of motherhood and fatherhood? And you did discuss kind of, bringing your own
Absolutely.
kind of experience to that. And so, I found both, I think the character, you identify, like you said, um, but what I was going to say is I found the character of Warda to be incredibly interesting character, because in many ways, I mean, maybe this is overstating it, but she seems to be kind of the moral center of the film. And that, I mean, at least
Yeah.
as mother, in terms of placing the needs of particularly her daughter, but then above herself. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about like writing her and kind of where you see her position in the film.
I discovered that the 3 films that I made, the strongest character in them are female characters. And I asked myself, some of the reporters were asking me, why are you doing that? And I just like started thinking, my mom, my sister, my wife, even my daughter, they're super strong characters.
Yeah.
And I think it's completely contrary to the way the West is seeing people from the Middle East.
Mhm.
Even my friends, the alpha is their mothers usually.
Mhm.
And I think it's actually because how hard it is at some point to be a woman, that makes women strong. So Warda and Amira are the strongest character in the story. And Warda, her story is parallel with Virgin Mary in a way. She's someone who has a kid without being touched, and everyone started doubting her, and she had to carry the weight by herself and stand up for herself and for her kid and take the blame for her. She's such an impressive character, an impressive mom.
Yeah.
And as for Nawar, as you said about Parenthood, who's the father? Is it the one who's the DNA father, or the one who raised her? The one who raised her was willing to take the blame and wanted her. And actually, when he was telling her to leave, it was the hardest thing in his life, and he wanted her to be with him. That was actually the ultimate sacrifice, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But that's another question for people to think about.
Yeah.
Who's the father? Who's the parent? Who raises, the one who raises and puts the effort, or the one who was the father by DNA?
Yeah. Right. Well, I love the film. I think like you're a brilliant screenwriter, but both kind of the way in which the narrative unfolds, and we're kept in the dark, and then slowly you reveal the kind of the plot points or the truth of it while tackling these really kind of complex but interesting issues. So I just want to congratulate you on the film. Thank you for sharing it with our audiences, and we look forward to seeing you in Chicago someday soon.
I would love to, and I'm so proud of the way this film has been written. And you can see similarities between this film as a structure and Asghar Farhadi's movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
The idea how every small point, every 10 minutes or something reveals itself that changes the main character's lives forever.
Yeah.
And hopefully I come next time with a better film too. A different film. So it's gonna be hard to have a better one, but a good one like Amira.
Well, we look forward to it as well. Thank you so much, and
Thank you, Mimi.
we'll be in touch.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone who's hearing. Bye.
Bye.